Welcome back to Combat Mission, where we're going to give the M8 Greyhound armoured car a quick going over. This is available to US forces all the way through the World War II titles, starting off with the invasion of Sicily and Fortress Italy to the end of the war in Final Blitzkrieg. Certainly in combat mission terms, it went through the war with very few changes. CM only features a couple of variants, which are almost identical, but although it was used as a reconnaissance vehicle, it had actually been conceived as a tank destroyer. By the middle of 1941, the US Army was looking for a light tank destroyer to replace the M6 gun motor carriage, which was essentially a 37mm gun on a 3/4 ton truck. It quickly became obvious that the 37mm had been outpaced as an effective anti-tank weapon though, so development continued as competing designs switched lanes from tank destroyer to armoured car. Production began in March 1942, with the new vehicle being designated the M8 and nicknamed the Greyhound by the British. By the time production ended in June 1945, 8,523 M8s had come off the assembly lines. Most of these went to the US Army, but they also find their way to US allies via Lend-Lease, and after World War II they spread out across the world as they were replaced and sold on or donated, complete with the kaleidoscope of upgrades and variants you get when people have found the chassis they like and they start experimenting. M8s saw combat in Western Europe, Italy and the Pacific during World War II. Post-war they were involved in some more fighting, including in colonial conflicts, notably in French Indochina, but they're almost all retired now. Starting at the front of the Greyhound, we got the driver on the left and the assistant driver on the right. The driver obviously drives. The assistant driver has no hull-mounted MG to play with, so he presumably mans the radio, helps to navigate, keeps an eye out and does other assistant driver things. Both positions have the same kind of hatch arrangement. They don't open up in CM unless you're bailing out, so they're relying on periscopes and vision slits here. Below them we have the attendant headlights, siren, etc. on the front slope. This is angled, but while the M8 is one of those vehicles that does technically have armour, it's not something you really want to be testing. While enemy infantry won't target Greyhounds with their small arms in combat mission, even if they're ordered to, at closer ranges small arms fire can do a fair amount of subsystem damage in the frontal arc and cause spalling from the flanks. Anything more powerful than that is going to poke holes in the armour all day long. Coming around to the side, we've got wheels. The M8 has 6-wheel drive, 2 up front and 4 at the back. This translates into it being a lot better on-road than off-road. Putting it through our vehicle mobility test, the Greyhound completed the kilometre of straight road in 71 seconds, compared to 73 for the M3A1 half-track and 79 for the M5 Stuart. Overall, it scored 659 points, slightly worse than the 642 of the half-track and noticeably behind the Stuart's 581. This is because the M8 just doesn't perform as well off-road, though it suffered its way through the slalom as well. Historically speaking, it apparently had a pretty wide turning circle, so that probably reflects that quite accurately. This isn't to say that the Greyhound can't go off-road. It absolutely can, and you probably should take it off-road because you're going to face all kinds of tactical problems if you don't. But the flip side, the ability to move rapidly on-road, the same roads that most of the rest of the army is going to be following the Greyhounds down, is very useful in a more operational sense than you get with combat mission. In a similar vein, wheels are much less maintenance intensive than tracks. The Greyhound is basically just a truck, so again there are more operational level advantages to wheels here. And getting back to the side of the Greyhound, there's a gap between the front and rear wheels which is used for stowage. The models in combat mission have a little basket which usually features jerry cans and ammo boxes. Historically they were also used to carry landmines, but these became a lot less useful as the war went on and the Allies were more consistently engaged in offensive operations. We've also got our radio antenna on the side of the vehicle plus some tool stowage. Coming around to the rear we've got grills and hatches, which means the engine, plus the usual stuff, rear lights, tow hook, nothing out of the ordinary. That leaves us with the turret. Most obviously this has the 37mm gun. It's an entirely adequate weapon for a reconnaissance vehicle that isn't really supposed to get stuck in. That said, the 37 can be surprisingly effective at shorter ranges. It's capable of tackling Panzer IVs in their frontal arc inside 500 meters and poking holes in the sides of Panthers at that range, though the smaller rounds don't necessarily have the kind of post-penetration effects to do much once they get inside. At longer ranges and against tougher targets, the AP obviously has a harder time, But conversely, against lighter vehicles like half-tracks and other armoured cars, it's not only effective, but the smaller caliber translates into a more rapid rate of fire than larger weapons. The Greyhound also carries high explosive ammunition, which is effective against light targets and infantry, though within limits given that it's only a 37mm shell and you can't fit that much explosive filler in there. Finally, the 37 also comes with everybody's favourite ammunition type, canister, because who doesn't want that 37mm shotgun? In total, combat missions M8s carry 80 rounds of 37mm ammunition, 45 explosive, 27 armour piercing and 8 canister. These are split between racks on the inside of the turret wall and sponsons and boxes in the hull, some of which were modifications by the crews to store extra ammunition. Alongside the 37mm we have a 30 caliber M1919 Browning, the usual coaxial weapon on American vehicles. Nothing to write home about here, it gets the job done, though apparently in combat mission it only comes with 500 rounds, which seems a bit low. Finishing off the turrets, we have the gunner on the left and the commander on the right. The commander doubles up as the loader for the main gun and is the lucky one who gets to put his head up when the vehicle is opened up. There is no turret roof, which means the turret crew are exposed to any unpleasantness that falls in there, but at the same time it's a pretty small target and it offers much improved visibility over an enclosed turret. So far we've been dealing with the early M8 variant. Combat Mission also features a mid variant, which is pretty much exactly the same, it just has a 50 caliber M2 mounted on a ring above the turret. This is operated by the commander, who obviously has to stand up to do so, and it prevents him from reloading the 37, and it comes with 400 rounds. Everything is better when you slap a 50 on it, it's a really useful source of additional firepower sitting between the main gun and the coax. While we're dealing with variants, we also had the M20 armoured utility car, which is basically a Greyhound with a turret removed, but the 50 retained. These aren't so much reconnaissance vehicles, though you can always use anything for reconnaissance, as they are general purpose armoured cars used for liaison, command or light supply purposes. In Combat Mission they have 2 spare seats, so you can transport 2-man teams. They carry a bit of extra small arms ammunition and a bazooka with 12 rockets. So that's the M8 Greyhound, very straightforward stuff, no surprises or anything with this one. It's a lightly armoured box with a 37mm gun on it that just gets on with the job. If you're chasing the German army across France or you're exploiting into Germany, it's exactly what you need. Hope you all enjoyed this one. I do quite like the Greyhound for all its simplicity. If you'd like to see these videos early and support the channel, you can do so via Patreon and YouTube memberships. Whether you do or not, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.